to know in 6 minutes starts now.
These animals are crazy. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. President Trump just tweeted that after an attack in Britain.
The man is in his late 20s and he's been arrested on suspicion of terrorism offences.
Scotland Yard Assistant Commissioner Neil Basu. It happened in London during morning rush hour.
This silver car, out of nowhere, rush hour traffic outside Parliament, careered off Parliament Square and sped up. Some estimates put him at about 50 miles an hour. He came round one corner. He knocked over about 10 cyclists before then trying to get inside Parliament and crashing into one of the gates there.
Fox's Benjamin Hall at the scene. 3 people were injured, 1 seriously. President Trump also just tweeted about Omarosa Manigault Newman, the ex-White House assistant, who calls him a racist in mental decline. The president wrote, she was a crazed, crying lowlife. He gave her a break. It didn't work out. And he praised his chief of staff for firing that dog. Now, the president was out campaigning for a Republican in New York last night and brought up the state's Democratic governor, Andrew Cuomo.
Now, he called me and he said, I'll never run for president against you, but maybe he wants to. Oh, please do it. Please. Please.
The president also said anybody who runs against him suffers. Now, the polls are just opening now in Minnesota and Wisconsin, where Senate races are getting the most attention. Fox's Rachel Sutherland live in Washington.
Dave, one race to watch in Wisconsin, the Republican Senate primary for a chance to unseat Democratic incumbent Tammy Baldwin. State lawmaker Leah Vukmir has the backing of the GOP establishment.
Our campaign is a Wisconsin-based campaign. My primary opponent's campaign is receiving support from D.C. insider groups.
Kevin Nicholson, a Marine vet, says he's running as an outsider in Minnesota. Both Senate seats at stake. Primaries being held to challenge Democrat Amy Klobuchar and to fill the seat of former Democratic Senator Al Franken. Dave.
Rachel, they're also voting for governor in Connecticut and in Vermont, where one of the Democrats running is a 14-year-old boy. Fox News. Fair and balanced.
It's the Ford Summer Sales Event. And now, while selection is best, it's the best time to buy. With amazing offers across a full lineup of Ford vehicles, now is the time to make summer go right with Ford, America's best-selling brand. Stop by a local Ford store or shop online at buyfordnow.com, because there is no better time than right now to get behind the wheel of a new Ford during the Ford Summer Sales Event. The Ford Summer Sales Event is here. Right now, get 0% APR financing for 60 months plus $1,000 bonus cash on the 2018 EcoSport. Best-selling claim based on 2017 calendar year sales. Not all buyers will qualify for Ford credit financing. 60 months at $1,667 per month for $1,000 finance regardless of down payment. For all offers, take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 8/31/18. See dealer or go to buyfordnow.com for qualifications and details.
Hundreds of New Jersey residents will return to their flood-damaged homes this morning following rain so severe 2 townships declared state of emergencies. This woman from Brick is trying to salvage anything. Photos from her home.
Very precious. I mean, they have no price. At least for me, memories are everything.
While Brick and Howell townships were pelted with more rain than they normally see in a month, Governor Murphy was visiting flood-ravaged Little Falls a day after storms moved cars out of a dealership lot, piling them on top of one another. Is there more to the story about alleged racism at Jenkinson's? A man who witnessed the incident says yes. He claims a group of girls were being unruly, running around and screaming when they were asked to leave a shop, and it had nothing to do with race. Resorts Casino will begin taking in-person sports bets tomorrow. They're already offering online and mobile sports betting. Resorts has been moving aggressively into the new sports betting market. Bob Dylan coming to Atlantic City November 17th. Latest act to be booked at the Hard Rock. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
Some wild weather over the past few days with tropical rainfall and some pretty severe flash flooding in spots. Fingers crossed we will not get a repeat today. Tropical moisture has moved away, and these storms should actually move rather than sit in one spot. Partly sunny this morning. Scattered showers and thunderstorms return this afternoon and this evening. Look for highs in the lower to mid-80s. Showers exit, and we'll see clearing skies tonight. Lows in the upper 60s, and a dry day tomorrow. It will be sunny, and it will be hot for your Wednesday. Highs around 90. I'm meteorologist Dan Zero.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPGG Talk Radio 104.1.
I could make something stick, but I'm not going to do it. A lot of conversation during the break about something that I could make stick. I will not do it. I just am not that kind of person. Ladies and gentlemen, Chuck Malamut is here. He is the managing director. He leads his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office. And this program is presented by and sponsored by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Hey, Chuck, top of the morning to you, my good friend, and you have quite an ambitious agenda this morning.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Kirk. Sidebar here for a second. I'm just awfully curious. I heard it a couple times that Kirk has moved to the other side. Is that correct? He's now...
I was very concerned when I heard the rumor.
Big capital D.
I was worried about it, and he had like a registration form popping out of his pocket, but he stuffed it in real quick, and he promised me he won't do it.
Was it the free cell phone that he got, or maybe it was a new iPhone, I think. That's what sent it over the top.
Because he had an Android before,
right?
So you're onto something, Chuck. But Kirk is coming back to us, though. He's going to be okay.
I want to wish him best of luck in his new endeavors.
Yes.
I hope everything works out.
Yeah, it's traumatic. I said to Kirk, I want to know like how much you've had to answer this today. It'll be very interesting.
He's certainly the highlight of Kirk's day. Kirk, you can report back to us. You give us a midday report, followed by end of day. I think that would be exceptional. So,
could I on a very solemn note, and I'm only going to leave it at this. I mentioned to Kirk and I mentioned to Chuck something that I've learned, and every national outlet in America, I think I used the term to Kirk and Chuck, would be tickling those keyboard keys in a split second if they knew what I knew. But I'm not going to break this story because it's not my style. It's just not something I would do. But I will do this, though, because I do believe that prayer works and prayer chains are important. And I'm going to ask everybody to pray for Mike Trout, the former Millville Meteor, and the incredible – well, let's put it this way. He is literally, by every cybermetric stat, he is the greatest player in Major League Baseball, not for just 1 year, but for his entire career. And he's produced stats that almost no other player has ever put together in the first 5 or so years of their career. I'm asking for prayers for Mike and his family. This is not directly for Mike, but directly involving a family member, and I'm going to leave it at that. And when you hear what this is, you'll know, hey, that's what Harry was talking about, but he didn't want to get into it. And that's how I'm going to leave that. Chuck, market update.
So, we are certainly in the dog days of summer. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, the weather has been extremely unpredictable.
Chuck, the only thing worse than the weather has been the weather forecasts. They've been more wrong than the weather.
I mean, one of the goals in life, oftentimes you chat about, well, what do you want to do when you come back in a second life? And
Hawaii.
And kiddingly, we oftentimes in my business say, well, it'd be great to be an analyst, research analyst, because you're wrong a lot and you get paid a substantial amount of money to be wrong.
I thought you were going weatherman in Hawaii.
But on the other side, a weather person forecasting the weather. Yeah, it's been. I mean, it's been crazy. I mean, yesterday, we didn't participate, fortunately, but not too far north of here. I think it was Brick, Tom's River, 8 inches of rain.
Heard a man actually. They saved up their whole lives to get the home of their dreams, basically destroyed.
And I think over the weekend there were shots from a car dealership, I think maybe up in Little Ferry, if I remember. I don't know if I had the right town. And I mean, these cars just literally being picked up and floating down the street.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy summer. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, even Harbor Pines closed yesterday. They're open again, but they had to close because of water. There's been so much.
Yeah, I understand the beaches in Ocean City. They maybe it was on Saturday. They basically they closed the beaches earlier in the day because of impending weather, and then the weather was actually okay until later in the evening, and then there was just a downpour. So it's been, I think it's been a challenge for business, been a challenge for tourists, that are coming down and visiting with us.
The weekends have been terrible weather-wise.
It's been tough, and I'm so curious to see the results coming out of Atlantic City because, for the summer. I mean, you hear all kinds of rumors and the good, the bad, the indifferent, and the ugly, and what's going to happen in the fall. But I think if you have this momentum, you can carry it into the winter. I think things are going to be pretty much okay here.
I totally agree. Chuck, before your market update, let me send a shout-out to Mark Giantonio, Resorts Casino Hotel Atlantic City, the exclusive casino hotel for the Hurley in the Morning program, because tomorrow at 11 a.m.,
big day,
Mark Giantonio will kick off the sports betting era at Resorts Casino Hotel.
I mean, I think the partnership with the DraftKings and online. I mean, that's going to put them. I think in a much better spot than others.
And
but
it is land-based, what they're doing.
Right, but it'll be. I mean, we're about a month away to week one in the NFL, and I'm just so curious to see, how these casinos operate during Sunday afternoons. Can they mimic what the sports books have, or the rooms in Vegas? Can they emulate that, or is this just going to be just sort of a humdrum? Okay, I'll make a bet on a team and then go home. So I'm thinking there'll be all kinds of marketing around it, and ultimately, again, that's another positive move for Atlantic City.
Without a doubt.
So speaking, we always kind of focus on the market, what happened, the week, last week, and clearly, we are now in the middle of August. You just remember, we've talked about this before, that as we get to the end of August, I mean, it basically come to a standstill. Most markets last week were mixed. Again, the market doesn't have much to focus on because we're pretty much through earnings for that second quarter. We'll kind of chat about that, a little bit later this morning. But, the concerns right now, are all around geopolitical risks. I mean, you and Kirk kind of talked about Turkey. We can talk, I think you pretty much covered that, but I do want to chat a little bit about Greece as we get into our discussion today. But, U.S. and China both announcing $16 billion of tariffs that are going to be put in place later this month. U.S. put sanctions back on Iran. Our president announced metal tariffs on Turkey, which basically sent that country reeling. And I think one of the things that you guys had talked about earlier today was the fact that how can a country with such a small economy have such a major impact, in the financial markets?
Yeah, it drives me mad, actually.
Well,
because it shouldn't.
I think the one thing that we've talked about on many, many occasions, shoot now, ask questions later.
Right.
And so basically, it's like everyone tries to get on the same side of the boat together. And I think that was evidenced yesterday as we were sleeping.
But if you all go to the same side of the boat together, that's not a great thing at the same time either.
No, unless you have Captain Kirk Conover steering,
exactly.
Then I think we're okay. But
yes.
But for the most part,
he would liberally construe that.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
So what happened was, as this all happened, their currency, the lira, basically sold off, 20% against our dollar, and then the results of that over the weekend or going into Monday, as we were sleeping Sunday night, the international markets had a very, very challenging task. Now, what I found interesting, as we look to the end of the week, the S&P was down 0.25%. Not a big move, certainly. And then we had 5 weeks of gains prior to that.
But some banks got hit.
Well, the banks got hit. Let's talk about that let's hold that aside for a second. But what happened was consumer discretionary was the leader. Staples, consumer staples, and REITs ended up lagging last week. So what was happening as we were sleeping Sunday night, the international markets took a pretty big hit, including domestic and international banks. A lot of European banks took it a lot harder than the U.S. banks as a result of, quote, what's going to happen with Turkey. What I found very interesting yesterday was the fact that we kind of shrugged that off. I mean, early on, the Dow futures were down, and they actually turned before the market opened, and they were up. I want to, please don't quote me on this, 130 plus maybe on the Dow, and then literally there was sort of that give up as we got into lunch and to the end of the day. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there is not a lot of volume right now. And that, when you do have volatility creeps in, and the VIX had a big week last week, it was up fairly significantly. And the end result is, just sort of everybody just sells, and more institutional than retail. And then the results were the results for the end of the day. Now, today, Home Depot announced this morning, just a couple hours ago, numbers that beat significantly expectations. And then so that mindset, well, okay, the consumer is still here. Housing is still, out there, an attractive sector to look at. So, I think what happens is now, because we're in that quiet period and there's not a lot of news flow, and so maybe some of the news flow that you get is really not the right news flow to begin with, the market's going to react or overreact accordingly.
Here's something good. This is just recent. European stocks gain broadly as Turkey's lira stabilizes. And another item that says European markets edge higher, rebound from Turkey fears. Hopefully that was a one-day sort of potential contagion.
So their currency was down, 73% going as it hit the low. And that particular day last week, or I guess it was Friday over the weekend, down 18% in one day alone. So oftentimes you have situations like that where, it's, again, as I said to you before, Harry, shoot now, ask questions later.
Let's take our first break. We're going to come right back. Chuck Malamut continues. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs. That's every aspect. If you're looking to plan a vacation in a couple of years and you want to put away for a trip, who knows, around the world, or your dream vacation, or college building for a child or children, if there's multiple children, so important to sit down with Chuck. Retirement planning, all aspects of your financial health, your financial planning. Turn to the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. He is the managing director, leads the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, and you can reach Chuck and his team at 609-383-2010. 609-383-2010. Much more straight ahead.
Did you know that over 90% of male enhancement pills are virtually the same thing that's repackaged, redone over and over again? Why settle for the same old product when you can get something completely different? Something that takes male enhancement into the 21st century. Something that really works. Men, you need to try Noxitril, the explosive, all-natural male enhancement formula that will unlock your performance in the bedroom to a level you could only dream of. Try to imagine Viagra on steroids. Noxitril is so powerful, that's why it took years for it to finally become available to the public without a prescription. So call now and take advantage of our special Noxitril free bottle offer today. Oh yeah, we recommend that you use the Noxitril dose as directed. Think of your partner. We certainly don't want you to overperform in the bedroom.
Call now and find out how to get a free bottle of Noxitril while supplies last. Call 1-800-992-9470. Free bottles for a limited time, so call now. 800-992-9470. That's 800-992-9470.
Save more with Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Hey, Todd, Liberty Mutual just saved me $782.
Liberty did what?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Maybe I should switch to Liberty Mutual.
Visit us online to... Hey, stop echoing.
Sorry.
Visit us online to get a quote, and you could save $782. Liberty Mutual Insurance. Based on a recent countrywide new customer survey, coverage is underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, Equal Housing Insurer.
When the need for senior care arises, there's no place like home. Your loved ones should never have to give up living at home. Visiting Angels will provide home care for your mom or dad at home up to 24 hours per day, including personal care, meals, and light housework. You'll select your professional caregiver with Visiting Angels. Look up visitingangels.com or call 877-374-LIVE. That's 877-374-LIVE. Franchises are available. Visiting Angels, America's choice in senior home care.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 is your radio home for the 2018 Atlantic City Air Show, Thunder Over the Boardwalk. Join us Wednesday, August 22nd for our live coverage, anchored by Harry Hurley. Brought to you by
Co-banner presenting sponsors: Senator Jeff Van Drew for United States Congress, Dr. Harvey Kesselman in Stockton University, along with Marci Antonio in Resorts Casino Hotel Atlantic City Electric, Ron Johnson in the Shore Medical Center, Vince Palestina and Associates, Morgan Stanley's Chuck Malamut, Jim Wood and Meet AC, Jim Malamut and Green Tree Mortgage, State Senator Chris Brown, the D'Amato Law Firm, Charles and Anne-Marie Keynes, the Auto Plaza at English Creek, and Kirk and Nancy Converse, the Shore Agency. Along with Frank Ballas for Egg Harbor Township Committee and Summers Point City Councilman James Toto. Please join me for the 8 o'clock pregame show. I promise we're going to make it a lot of fun. Senator Brown is going to open things up. We're going to have a nice conversation with him. It's been a long time, actually. In fact, I don't know that we've talked to him on air since the election even. Who knows? And that was a long time ago. So we're looking forward to that. We'll have Stockton University on hand. Obviously, Stockton, Atlantic City, so exciting, and a number of other great interviews just in our pregame show, which is going to last more than 3 hours. And then at about 11:35, the actual 16th annual Atlantic City Air Show, Thunder Over the Boardwalk, begins. All the action nonstop. It'll be commercial free, no interruption, live straight through coverage here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1. Easiest way to listen: get the app on your smartphone and listen right from your phone, whether you're at the air show or if you're not able to make the air show. So a sincere thank you to all of our presenting sponsors that we just had the opportunity to highlight. Chuck Malamut is going to take another stroll to Greece.
So I thought it'd be interesting. Went back and did a little bit of research on, remember the ongoing sagas that we lived through with Greece.
It was terrible and disproportionate to reality.
So they've been bailed out now 3 times in the last 8 years. The first was in May 2010, 110 billion euros. Less than 2 years later, February 2012, 173 billion euros. And in April 2016, 86 billion euros. So the number 3 bailout, the one was put in place in April 2016, is scheduled to end this month, allowing Greece to set its own economic policy going forward. So I think that if you think about what is happening in Turkey now, and are they going to live the same fate that Greece has had? Interestingly enough, I chatted with a client yesterday, Harry, that spent some time in Greece, and I think the takeaway, the Greek islands were just wonderful. You would never know that there were any economic issues there, but Athens, I mean, while beautiful to visit, very, very tough town, and it's now at the point where it's somewhat, I'm being told, somewhat dangerous to even walk the streets. A fair amount of homeless people on the street, a lot of drug usage, and a lot of prostitution. So again, that's just sort of a takeaway from a very good client that was there just 2 weeks ago. So hopefully Turkey does not live the same fate that Greece has and Greece will have.
Greece is back. Greece is the word.
Well, I'm not so certain about that.
That just was a pun.
I get it.
But remember how many times we talked and I would say, Chuck, this is so disproportionate to reality. That's how I felt about Turkey now that this has crept up.
Well,
by the way, let the pastor go, and a lot of their economic woes, President Trump will take the boot off his throat.
Yeah, I think, again, it's think about the timing. Think about where we are. It's middle. It's August. Some of the news is for real. Some of it's not. But the market really doesn't have much to work off of right now. So, whether it's negative or positive news, the fact of the matter is that, when the good segue is the fact, let's talk about second quarter earnings, because most of it's in the books right now. I mean, 90% of the companies in the S&P 500 have reported earnings per share is now running plus 24% compared with the same quarter, a year ago. The blended average revenue growth is nearly 10%. So that favors very well, obviously, as you compare Q1 and Q2. And I think what's interesting is that, we oftentimes look at price to earnings ratios. And, oftentimes people and analysts say, well, the market's overheated. Price earnings ratio is too high. Remember, that calculation very simply, Harry, is that you take the price of the stock and divide it by the earnings per share. And that comes with a PE ratio. So the higher the PE ratio typically, could spell trouble, with a particular company. But, right now the S&P PEs average about 16.7 times next 12-month earnings. So, the market, I think right now is just kind of stuck in a fairly wide trading range. It's a matter of how we're going to get out of it. But if you kind of dissect the second quarter, as far as the earnings are concerned, I think there's a little bit of, I think we have to worry just a little bit here. Most of the earnings came from revenue growth and the big cut that we saw in corporate tax rates. A smaller amount is being generated from margin expansion. We oftentimes talk about that. How much can a company reduce their costs by having superior automation, computerization, or of the like. So what is happening is that sectors that did very well in the quarter were energy, technology, and healthcare. Consumer-related sectors, discretionary staples and REITs, as I mentioned to you before, were at the bottom of the heap. So it's a risk-on world we're living through right now. The primary question is, can we maintain this through the end of the year as we have these ongoing concerns with respect to trade disruptions?
Chuck, we're going to step aside for just 2 minutes. When we come back, Chuck is going to talk about the escalation of trade tensions, and then we're going to get to the topic of inflation. Do we have inflation? And I was thinking about, for example, Venezuela. I just looked up. You can buy a gallon of gas in Venezuela right now for 1 penny. An American penny buys, actually it's a liter, not a gallon, a liter of gas in Venezuela. 1 penny. They have 1,000,000% inflation. So if Chuck mentions that we have inflation, and I think he might, but he's the expert, so I'm not going to get ahead of him. We'll keep it in perspective. Venezuela, 1,000,000% inflation.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1 invites you to Kennedy Plaza on the Boardwalk in Atlantic City every Wednesday evening at 7 for free concerts from Tony Mart Presents. Bring your festival chairs and your dancing shoes. From New Orleans jazz bands to Grammy Award-winning musicians, the world-famous Boardwalk in Atlantic City comes alive every Wednesday evening. For a complete list of free concerts, visit WPGTalkRadio.com.
Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department, selection, and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
It's Cara Munt, Miss America 2018. 51 candidates are headed to Atlantic City, all vying for the job of Miss America 2019. Miss America 2.0 is a brand new event and gets underway with preliminary competitions in Atlantic City's Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall on September 5th through the 7th. The famous Atlantic City Boardwalk Parade is Saturday, September 8th, and Miss America 2019 will be chosen live on ABC on September 9th. Purchase your tickets on Ticketmaster.com to meet these amazing young women. We'll see you there.
30 minutes past the hour. Chuck Malamut is here. A reminder for all of your financial planning needs. Turn to Chuck Malamut, Managing Director of the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office for all of your financial planning needs. You can call 609-383-2010. Is there an escalation of trade tensions?
Well, there is, and I think we're seeing it every day. But what is happening is that it's concentrated more between the U.S. and China at this point in time. And that I don't know if you using the word relationship is good, because I'm not quite certain. I think that has obviously deteriorated somewhat. But other trade disputes have taken more of a constructive direction. So you think about it, the White House is probably going to move forward to impose some sort of additional tariffs on imports from China, even while the outlook for automobile tariffs and NAFTA. Remember, NAFTA was just like a really, really bad word. That renegotiation has improved somewhat. So it looks like, Harry, that we're kind of centric here on two countries, and the two big countries, the U.S. and China. So, it would be great if we could predict the future, but ultimately, I think the president's obviously playing a little bit of gamesmanship. But now, the question is, how much of it is gamesmanship, and how much is going to potentially impact our economy? I think that's something we certainly have to consider here.
Very much so. Do we have inflation?
Well, it's interesting. We were on a break, and Kirk kind of mentioned it, but inflation has been trending somewhat higher, moving from very low to what we'll call low. It's still not high. Core inflation measured by core CPI, which includes food and energy costs, accelerated in July to 2.4% year over year, which is the fastest growth that we've seen in a decade. Now, you kind of shrug your shoulders and say, well, 2.4%. Based on a GDP that is in excess of 4%, it's really, really not so bad. But I think the fact of the matter is that we kind of kiddingly said on the break that, there's certain components that are excluded, which are, inflation sensitive, food, and then ultimately energy. And certainly if you take a look at the price at the pump, it certainly has not been cheap, to travel, this summer. I mean, we're seeing it here not only in Jersey, but we're seeing it domestically as well throughout the country. The price of unleaded as of Friday was at $2.85 a gallon, and a year ago we were $2.38. And if we look at the growth at the end of December of last year, we're $2.47. So that obviously has an impact to the consumer. As more money gets spent on the necessities, and less money is potentially being spent on vacations, perhaps. So it's just something to think about.
Very important. When will be the peak for earnings growth? Because I know you have a crystal ball.
Well, Harry, if it was that easy, we would all have our own islands. We wouldn't be living in Kirkland. We would be living
Kirkland, Otisburg, Malamutville.
Yeah, well, it's
Kirkland.
I keep getting notices that my taxes increase. It's just the most amazing place, but. So
they vote very liberally in Kirkland, by the way.
They do.
Yes.
You're absolutely right about that. So many people have been, and analysts have been very, very apprehensive about equities with the very, very strong earnings that we've seen, and some believe that the first quarter of 2018 represented a peak in the earnings growth rate. However, peak earnings growth does not generally correlate to peak prices, providing that earnings growth continues to be strong. So think about this for a second. In January, estimated second quarter earnings growth was 11.4%. That actually increased to 20.7% in July. And the current estimate is now 24%. So we think that growth in earnings can be evenly attributed. Again, we talked about tax cuts, we talked about revenue growth, and we talked about margin improvement and financial engineering. So I'm not quite certain that Q1 was the peak, but I'm thinking what's going to be probably really important to think about here is the fact that, the bar has been raised so high as we get into Q1 2019, Q2 2019, are we going to be able to measure up and either meet and or beat what happened?
Chuck, to date, is it fair to say that tax cuts coupled with just opening up markets and capitalism, has just unleashed this economy?
It has. As I think I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege of traveling down in Kentucky for the weekend, in Ohio and North Carolina, and it's just remarkable. I had to pick up a vehicle yesterday. There's some repair work was being done at one of the dealerships, and I just casually asked how was business, and it's like
booming, right?
It's just they're very, very busy.
Everybody you talk to was saying that.
Wherever you go, and that's a good thing. So certainly, I think all of us are feeling better about where we are financially in life, and as a result of that, we have a tendency to want to spend more. Because we have the income stream is
people spend more when there's a confidence that you're going to have gainful employment and that things are good. People are encouraged and feel safe to spend discretionary money.
Absolutely. So, we think that we're thinking that the year should continue in an upward bias, but then our concern is as we get into next year. And alongside of that comes your midterm elections. And, it's anybody's guess because, we can talk about, who's going to take over the House, who's going to keep the Senate.
Well, aren't all your analysts saying that Republicans will keep the Senate and that they favor Democrats to take the House? Isn't that the House money right now?
We have seen, various expectations. Most of them are suggesting what you just said, Harry, that it will be split. And if you go back and look, I found this to be just pretty remarkable here. If you go look at the last 50 years, and you look at the S&P 500, it's been up over 20% per year under a Democratic president and a Republican-led Congress. Other than that, a Republican president and a Congress controlled by Democrats, kind of the opposite, up about 4.5%. So everything that you guys talk about, it just seems very absurd that you get those kinds of results. So, it's when the House and the Senate are controlled by different parties, regardless of who's in the White House, the S&P has been up over 9% per year. So maybe, as convoluted as this sounds, maybe it's not such a bad thing statistically that
when people work together in the history of our country, split government has worked very well. Obviously, with Republicans in control of the House and Senate and Bill Clinton, the president, we had a great period of growth. Reagan had a split situation, although in fairness, the other party was willing, enough of them to work to give him a working majority, but they're not cooperative now.
Yeah, you're right. This has been, and we oftentimes talk with colleagues, clients, and friends and associates, and you have never seen or lived through what we're living through right now, and I'm obviously we're all concerned as we get into the beginning of November and what the results are. Can in fact, if what you guesstimated or analyzed or projected or reported, I think is the right word, because I don't think you necessarily believe that.
Thank you. If you ask me, yes, I'm intellectually honest, and I don't make stuff up. Some people just say, "Oh, it's going to be fine." It could go either way. Still, it is that close. But if you look at history, other than the midterm of George W. Bush, and that was completely September 11, 2001 driven. The country was in a solemn mood. We were more united, 91% approval rating for the president. That was the only midterm of a first-term president that didn't result in the People's House. Senate's a little different because there's 3 different classes, and we could explain that, but we won't do it on your show. But in the House, when all 435 seats come up, the average has been somewhere around 48 seats go every single time. I can guarantee you that probably won't be the case, but since there only needs to be a swing of 23, that's very doable. It's even I would say it's leaning that way to almost likely that it will go that way, but it's still close enough. And the president is going to be out on the campaign trail, and this is where this topic of stocks and politics is Chuck's wheelhouse and mine. It could stay majority one party, but my hunch would be we'll have a Senate of the Republican Party, potentially House of the Democrat Party, and obviously the president. And so we will have what I think our financial realm has always liked, and they say even the people like it, split government, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that, again, as you did a very good job describing that. Split government is not necessarily a bad thing. Split government is could be very, very detrimental as we get into the winter of 2018, 2019.
And I lean that it will be that because there's just a different atmosphere now than we've had in the past. So it will be disruptive.
Exactly. So we talked about sort of the dog days of summer, and I think we're clearly evidently living through it right now. The last year when the high close of the S&P 500 occurred during August was in 1987, or 31 years ago. Since 1987, the high close for the index has occurred in December 17 times. So, the old adage, sell in May and go away. So, sometimes there is some credence to that, but we oftentimes talk about this, and I don't want to sound repetitive or like a broken record, but August of 2018 will probably be similar to 17 to 16 to 19. There's just not a lot of people around. We had an opportunity to visit with a client up in New York City last Thursday, and it was quiet. It was busy, but not busy as you normally would see it.
People are enjoying their summer.
Gone. They're gone.
Part of a good economy.
Well, that, and obviously on Wall Street there's just a lot of vacations. Everything kind of goes
Congress
a screeching halt.
Congress is not in session.
Well,
everything.
We can talk about that another day. I'm not going to.
But it's part.
It is true. I'm not going to go there.
But it's part of. It's not politics. It's
right.
That's what they do. They go back to campaign, and it's all part of sort of the shutdown modality. Now, you talked earlier in your program, Chuck, about second quarter 2018 earnings. How about second quarter growth?
So I think you guys kind of talked about this last hour. We talked about it
brilliantly. We did,
absolutely. So the U.S. economy grew by 4.1% over the second quarter 2018. Now, that, if you look at the last 12 years, 48 quarters, there have been only 4 quarters within the 48 where we had a higher growth rate. So think about 40. We just literally beat 44 quarters. And again, it's attributable to what's happening, in the economy and what's happening in our country. And there's been a disconnect now because you're seeing, obviously with what happened with Turkey, emerging markets took somewhat of a hit. Your international markets, MSCI EFA, as we oftentimes refer to, is struggling, compared to what's happening here in the U.S.
One other thing, and I think you're going to agree with this, Chuck, and I'd be shocked if you don't, but the other encouraging thing that I like to see month after month when numbers catch up and they're revised and so on and so forth, it seems as though, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like everything is being revised upward.
It is.
Which is all,
and that's all, we oftentimes sit.
Means we're understating the growth as it's happening.
As the monthly employment report comes, the beginning of each month, from the prior month, we oftentimes sit, on the edge of our seats waiting for the number, but probably, Harry, as important to the number are the revisions, from the prior months. So what we've seen of late is the revisions have all been upward and not necessarily, downward revisions.
Excellent. Really, really good stuff. Bank failures. As recently as last program, you talked about the record for not having bank failures.
Yeah, it was. We went. I can't remember exactly. It was 200 plus days, maybe 230, 40
is the
days.
Record over?
No. So here's what. No. I haven't. There hasn't been a failure reported, but of the.
I wasn't sure what you meant by bank failures. A lot and a few.
So here's the deal. So what I meant. So I should have been a little more specific. No.
Failed.
So there were 536 bank failures that occurred during the 15 years that ended just last month.
Right.
More than half of those failures actually occurred in just 4 states.
Wow.
Georgia, Florida, Illinois, and California. So there were of the 536 bank failures, 271 were from those 4 states. Georgia the leader at 92. Florida not far behind at 73, Illinois at 66, and then California at 40.
Actually, for the size of California,
you would think it'd be kind of flipped the other way. And Georgia, I was very surprised to see that number. Actually, I thought for sure, if Georgia was going to be in the top 4, it'd be number 4. It certainly wouldn't be number 1. But just something to think about. And the good news is, as you just mentioned, there hasn't been a failure in almost a year now. Which is obviously a good thing for our banking system.
When you tighten regulations, lending policy, and all these different things and other variables that I'm not even prepared to comment on, coupled with having a good economy, this is what you get.
Yeah, and speaking of a good economy, it kind of segues into the next item we're going to chat about for a second, and that's the job market. I mean, it's on fire. I mean, it just continues to tighten. So let's think about this for a second. Right now, there are 6.2 million Americans that are out of work. Back in 2009, that number was 14.6 million. So it's a 57% decrease. And the question is, of the 6.2 million, how many of those Americans are really actively seeking work? Or they sort of stepped to the sidelines and said, I'm no longer interested, or I'm not capable, or I have a family situation that I can't work. So
we're quickly hitting a point where there aren't many people available.
If you are seeking employment, you will be gainfully employed. It might not be the most, the opportune job, the dream job of yours, but certainly it gets you in the game.
For the first time in many years, employees actually have some leverage again, don't they?
Well, they do. We kind of talked about this, wage growth in prior discussions. And a lot of the wage growth that we've seen is not necessarily it happening on behalf of the companies that you're employed at, but because you are, in a position to make a move from company A to company B, that's where the wage growth.
Chuck, as you know, older baby boomers, and the baby boomers, the biggest generation in American history, there's some discussion now that in this peacetime expansion that we're experiencing, that there could be like a baby boom coming now, just in peace and prosperity and good economy. This just is sort of a natural progression. Social Security, and this is even before many of the baby boomers are going to retire. How many are collecting?
I think when I saw this for the first time, I kind of fell out of the chair.
I think you're going to knock our socks off.
19% of our population right now, in one way, shape, or form, is currently receiving some sort of monthly benefit from Social Security. 62 million beneficiaries out of 328 million Americans are now collecting some sort of Social Security. Now, whether that's a retiree or due to a death, but that's a lot. Think about
now, just imagine the next 10 years what's 62.
Yeah, one out of 5 are now collecting, and with modern medicine, we're going to extend life expectancy. We've had these discussions with respect to Social Security, when to collect and how to collect, and I think that if a retiree can potentially get themselves positioned where they can wait to get to full retirement age, and that is age 66. In 2 months, 6 months, whatever it may be, depending upon your birth year. Remember, going from age 62 to full retirement age is an 8% per year growth.
Yep.
In your benefit. So think about, I just saw the other day that a local, I don't know the lady's name, she lived to 110.
111, actually. It was Mrs. Turner.
Okay, so
111.
Now, granted, that's, I think we might not quite make that, but
we had her on our show. She was 3 months before she passed. We had her on the program. It was 3 months before her 111th birthday, which she did make it to. And she was as sharp as anybody that you'll talk to. And she did pass.
So I think that kind of reiterates the fact that, if you haven't done the proper planning, you really need to do so, because we have sort of an advertisement here. One of the things that we do, with our clients is that retirement planning scenario. We have a great module that does it, but it pushes out the average mortality right now into the mid-80s. And a woman, an average male, I believe, is like 83 to 85. A woman is like 85 to 87, depending upon the birth year. And, if I go back, 30 years ago, that was in the 70s.
Yeah, which changes a lot, because now you need to make sure you've planned to get towards mid-80s.
Yeah, it's you got to plan to that mortality date, but you can't. Please don't sell yourself short. I think it would be a mistake.
For all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck. That's the Malamut Group, Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. Chuck, thank you.
Thanks for having me. See you next week.
Now, someone wrote me last Thursday. I saw it this morning. They thought I would never see it, or at least thought there was a good chance I would never see it. I did see it. And I'm going to make an attempt at a cold call right now. We'll see what happens when we come back.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger.
When you have joint pain, one of the last things you might feel like doing is moving. But just like the Tin Man and the Wizard of Oz, inactivity can cause our joints to stiffen even more. The right kind of movement for your specific needs can improve joint stability and muscle strength, which can reduce the need for pain medications. Shedding extra pounds is one of the best ways to reduce osteoarthritis pain. We can put 3 to 5 times our body weight on our joints just by walking or going upstairs. For every pound we lose, we take about 3 to 5 pounds of stress off our hips, our knees, and our ankles. So losing 20 pounds could actually take 100 pounds of pressure off of our joints. Some of the best exercises are swimming, cycling, and elliptical training. Our bodies were meant to move, so find a way to stay active.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlanticare, a member of Geisinger. Call 1-888-569-1000 or visit atlanticare.org.
East Coast Roofing and Siding.
Hi, I'm Larry Styler.
And I'm Sean Styler.
Are you tired of contractors not showing up or even taking the time to return your call? At East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows, we're proud of the quality and service that we've provided to South Jersey since 1979. We know how important your home is and guarantee that we'll provide you the trusted service you deserve from your first call to the completed project. We can also provide you peace of mind with financing options to suit your budget through our partnerships with large, reputable lenders in the home remodeling industry. So don't put off that project any longer. Call us at 609-646-1444 or visit us at eastcoastroofing.com to schedule your free consultation today.
If you'll call, we'll show up.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hey, wake up with Harry Hurley and drive home with me, Sean Hannity, 3 to 6. It's all happening here on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Hey, thanks very much. All right, Joe had no idea this was going to happen this morning. I teased it, but so generically that even if he was listening, he wouldn't necessarily know. I received a communication last Thursday that Joe didn't know if I would ever receive it. I did receive it. For some reason, I missed it, though, until this morning at about 4:30 in the morning. So right then and there, I made a mental note that I wanted to reach out and cold call Joe Berg. He's a detective. He's the president and the state delegate with the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office. and they are hosting a 5K event that's going to benefit the Josh Vidal Foundation. And this event's going to be taking place on Saturday, October 6th. And I wanted to introduce myself to Joe and welcome him to the program. Mr. President, how are you?
I'm good, Harry. How are you?
Good. Thanks for taking my cold call because you had no idea I was going to call. And in fact, I didn't read your text message to me through social media, but you even doubted whether I would ever see it. And I wanted to let you know I did see it. And we're going to get behind this. And I wanted to give you an opportunity. Talk about New Jersey Back the Blue 5K and what this is all about.
So this will be our second year doing the Back the Blue 5K down here in Cape May County. And the nice thing about Back the Blue 5K is that it encourages community involvement with law enforcement support. Last year we did it for the New Jersey State PBA Survivor and Welfare Program. We were able to raise over $4,000, and we had about 170 racers, which was a huge event for our first go-around. This year we've chosen the Josh Vidal Foundation just due to the fact that Josh is such a critical and important member of the PBA, of the Atlantic County and Cape May County, policing families. And we just really want to get behind Josh and Laura and show as much support as we can to his foundation.
Now, Mr. President, in terms of making a contribution, listeners that are listening right now, and this is now going to be on my Hurley in the Morning community bulletin board, so I'm going to help you promote this now on air.
I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Even when you're not here, and we have the perfect amount of time. We've got the rest of the summer and all the way up until Saturday, October 6th, to help give this a push. We'll be pushing it right until Friday the 5th here on the Hurley in the Morning program. Now, I know you're the president and the state delegate, Cape May County PBA Local 401. People that are making contributions, do you want them to write checks to PBA Local 401, then you will then dedicate to the Josh Vidal Foundation, or do you want them made out to the Josh Vidal Foundation? How do you want to work that?
The easiest way to do it, Harry, would be for people who don't want to participate in the race, for people who are just looking to make a straight donation, they can make it to the Josh Vidal Foundation. And then if someone wants to mail it in to PBA Local 401, we'll make sure that we present all that stuff to Josh and Laura the day of the event.
What's the address for PBA Local 401?
It's going to be P.O. Box 832, Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey, 08210.
What we want to do, Mr. President, the Hurley in the Morning Charity Foundation is going to write a grant in the amount of $500. It will be in today's mail, and I'll send it to your attention. And so you count on that like I just put it into your hand. I promise you will have it as long as the mail takes a couple of days, whatever it is. You'll have it this week. So that's our starting point, and I want to encourage our listeners to support the New Jersey Back the Blue 5K, Saturday, October 6th, 9 a.m. to 12 noon is the event. And where is it going to take place again?
It's going to take place at the Cape May County Police Academy. We thought that was a nice honor to Josh, considering that's the police academy that he attended. We have the Cape May County Law Enforcement Memorial right there, and we're able to really kind of bring home everything that the race is all about.
I think it's going to be an absolutely outstanding event, and I love the way that you pick such important causes. So it seems like each year you pick a certain foundation or charity that you're going to award the funds to, and I think it's a really a good way to proceed. You're helping a lot of people.
I appreciate that, Harry. And the biggest thing about these events is the community involvement with law enforcement. I think it's time that people understood that we're all on the same page, we're all on the same team. I'm a community member just like everybody else is, and we're here to live together and make this community as strong as we can.
We've been visiting. We're at the final minute of the hour, Mr. President. We've been visiting with Joe Berg. He's a detective and also the president and the state delegate with the Cape May County Prosecutor's Office. That's PBA Local 401. And we've been previewing the New Jersey Back the Blue 5K that will be taking place on Saturday, October 6th, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. If people want more information or they're driving and they don't have a chance to write all this down, is there a website? Is there a way to I know that you're doing social media and all kinds of things. What's the best way to get an update on your event?
Either through the Cape May County PBA Local 401 Facebook page, or you can go backtheblue5k.com and you'll see the Cape May County PBA Local 401 event page.
Hey, Joe, thanks. Thanks for taking my unexpected call. I think I proved I do answer my text messages.
You do.
And it is our pleasure on behalf of the Hurley in the Morning charity to make the $500 donation for your event.
Harry, I can't thank you enough, sir. I really appreciate it.
Happy to do it. Keep up your great work, and thanks for all you do, keeping us safe. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing, Joe. Take care, and you know where to find me when you need me, okay?
I do, Harry. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Joe. Dr. Bob Zlotnick is here. He's making a house call. He's got guests ready to go. A lot of good stuff straight ahead in our final hour. I love this Tuesday, from Kirk Conover to Chuck Malamut to Dr. Bob Zlotnick, and then to be able to, on behalf of all of our great contributors, to make a contribution of $500 to the Josh Vidal Foundation. It's our pleasure.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Why did he do it? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's the question for a possible terror suspect in Britain.
He is not currently cooperating.
He used a car as a weapon near Parliament. Fox's Simon Owens live in London.
Dave, people who were there say the car drove fast into cyclists and pedestrians.
It looks deliberate to me. He didn't swerve. There was not another car behind him. It looked like it was planned.
The car ended up ploughing into a